Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another Nacho Tuesday. And today I have Chris here with Callvu. And without further ado, we'd love if you could introduce what you do over there and tell us more about Callvu.
Sure. So Callvu, well, first of all, I'm Chris Philly. I lead marketing for Callvu. We're a global organization. Even though we're small, we have clients in the US and Europe and in the Middle East. And Callvu is a platform for automating customer experience. And so we help, when I think about automation in terms of customer experience, these are processes where the customer is actively engaged in the process. And so you need a front end interface for that customer to engage with, whether that's a chat interface or more like a traditional app with buttons and fields and things like that. But in any event, we allow businesses to build solutions around specific customer processes so that customers are empowered to get what they need when they want it at any time of day in their channel of choice. And so it just provides a powerful way for customers to self-serve and get what they need from the companies they do business with.
Yeah, that's a good point. As they say, time kills deals. So if you're not there to answer or help the customer and create a frictionless experience, they're going to go somewhere else and you're going to lose that opportunity. And really what we've seen. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so I'm in marketing and we've been talking about customer delight for a long time and trying to think about how we differentiate our brands with customer experience. And I've been in customer experience for 5 years now, and I can tell you that delight comes down to time. And It comes down to how much time customers need to invest to rectify whatever issue has come up. And they want to get back to living their life. Customer service is incredibly important, but it's nobody's favorite thing to do. So brands are looking for ways to make it as fast, easy, frictionless, as you said, to use a buzzword, as possible. And that's really how you differentiate, build loyalty, and keep customers from wondering if they could have a better situation with one of your competitors. So speed of resolution is the name of the game in customer service. And anyone who's waited on hold for 20 minutes or tried to figure out, digging around in knowledge bases, these are all things that we know are painful and are not ideal when working with a company. So.
Yeah, that experience is really a key differentiator for a lot of companies when there's just an explosion of companies and software, even specifically out there today. So having that better customer experience is really a key, unique selling proposition for any company. And you guys really help companies establish that through the use of micro apps, correct? Can you maybe cover some of the micro apps that you guys offer and what those are?
So micro apps, absolutely. Micro apps are more of a concept or an approach to software development. So I'll start there. Basically, the way that companies have built these types of digital solutions, think about the web portal that you log into to manage your account, or the mobile app, or the chatbot that's on the website. All of these things are designed, don't love this word, but they're considered monolithic applications. So they have multiple functionalities within them. You go to your mobile app, you can do anything from manage your account to book an appointment, see old invoices, whatever those things may be. A micro app is just a different approach to getting those capabilities in the hands of customers. And it's really, what's unique about it is you're focusing on a single capability or a single process that you're trying to automate. So rather than having one app that does everything, you have many apps that specialize in the exact customer need or process that you're looking to automate. And so when we talk about micro apps, we're talking about, as the name would suggest, a small application. They are single purpose, as I mentioned. They're focused on enabling a single use case. They are web-based, so leverage all of the advancements in HTML and the ability to deliver web apps that have the same feel and functionality as a native app.
Mhm.
And because they're small, and we focus in customer experience. And so there's some very common ways that companies interact with customers. We're able to utilize building blocks and templates to accelerate the build of a billing app, for example.
Every engineer's dream.
Yes, exactly. We've seen this in a lot of different areas of software development, and this is particularly true in customer experience. And the last thing is that micro apps are designed to leverage all of the other technology in your stack through APIs. So all the data management and process management is intended to happen within your core systems, like your CRM or your customer service ticketing system. And then the micro apps just pull data from there as needed to enable that one workflow that you're trying to automate. And so when you take all those things together, micro apps are just a far more efficient way to get a new capability in the hands of customers. But it's also just a new way to think about building out your entire portfolio of customer solutions. It's easier to kind of treat them all as modular blocks rather than managing one application that enables all those different capabilities.
Yeah, the flexibility is key because a lot of particular clients of yours might have like one specific need they want to address first, rather than a one size fits all approach. And as you know, with conversion, like funnel optimization, a lot of times you might have like a specific problem you want to fix first, like we need to book more demos, maybe you have an app for that. So what you guys really allow them to do is kind of piecemeal optimize that conversion funnel one step at a time, one element at a time to make it better, so they could increase the amount of inbound leads they're getting, the convergence that they're getting out of it as well, as opposed to just trying to solve everything with with kind of a one size fits all approach, like I mentioned, which doesn't work as well these days.
Absolutely. You bring up a couple great points. One is that right now in the market, there's lots of people in the market doing lots of different things. But in general, we have kind of these two ways that companies approach CX automation. One is to build something from scratch, or a custom development. And on the other side, you kind of have these off-the-shelf point solutions. And you're absolutely right. Especially larger companies, they have specific requirements that they need to have met. It needs to be able to work with this system that we have in the back end. We need these specific steps in our workflow, because that's just how we operate. And so what micro apps aim to do is really bring the best of both of those worlds. So you have the flexibility to customize as needed, integrate with whatever systems are needed in order to stand up that solution. But they have a lot of the benefits of kind of off-the-shelf technology. There's templates, there's pre-built integrations, there's building blocks that are all there, all based on all of our learning of how to do customer experience right. And that just, gives a lot of the benefit of kind of that pre-built software, but the customization ability that larger organizations need.
Yeah, and the integrations are really key too. For everybody likes to work the way that they work already, and if they already have their systems in place, they don't want to overhaul all of that. Whatever you bring in needs to work with their existing ways of doing things. So I guess, could you give us any specifics on some of the apps that you guys have as part of Callvu that marketers might be able to use today?
Yes, and there's a long list, so I'll probably not get all of them. But I think that this is really important, just so we can get out of esoteric conversation and bring it down to reality. So we're talking again. So we're primarily working with companies like telcos, like utility companies, like insurance companies, banks, healthcare providers. These are companies that have a high customer service volume, because they have a lot of customers with a lot of needs for that customer service engagement. They also have a lot of different processes that they're trying to support through customer service. And there's some complexity there. And so examples could be, really what we're trying to do is fill the gaps in their current customer experience. So there's a, almost limitless number of ways you could use micro apps. But, for an insurance company, we may want to look at the underwriting process, the creation of a new policy for a new customer, and look at all the steps in that journey and figure out where automation would be beneficial. So that could be filling out a number of forms when you're applying for a new policy, and then submitting information about your home or your car. Maybe there's pictures that need to be shared. Maybe there's documents that need to be signed. And so that would be a micro app that completely digitizes and automates the new policy underwriting process, for example. And in doing that, insurance companies are able to make decisions on potential policies that they're considering for new customers, make those decisions more quickly, get the approvals more quickly, get those prospects into paying customers more quickly. And that's obviously gets the insurer to revenue more, faster. But, in situations like that, the customer is often looking at quotes and working with a few different brands while they make their final decision. And so time is money in that scenario. So that would just be one example. But you could have everything from booking and managing your doctor's appointments. It could be the intake forms that you fill out when you get to the doctor's office. Maybe we want to enable people to do that from home before they show up, so they're not sitting with 3 COVID cases in the waiting room filling out paper forms. So those are just a few examples, but hopefully that provides the context the audience needs to really understand kind of what we're talking about here. These are the same things that we're reaching out to companies we work with for customer service all the time. So they should be familiar, even if you haven't been using a micro app to complete these processes. They allow, they empower customers to do a lot of the same things.
Excellent. Yeah, it sounds like a very agile system, which, is really key these days. CTOs want to be able to roll things out without a bunch of engineering hours put into it. And like you mentioned, saving time, letting the customer have a frictionless experience where they can easily submit some of their own information if it's easy enough. Maybe have an API call with a profile that they might already have Google or some information that already might be stored on them, which they could automatically upload into the form to, pre-fill some of the data for them. So they're already, halfway down the road by the time they start their form. All that stuff's really key for closing the deal.
Yes, absolutely. And, you're bringing up a great point. So micro apps are designed to present and collect data, but they don't manage data themselves. And so one of the real benefits for the CTO, like you mentioned, is we're not another repository, micro apps. This isn't a pitch, but micro apps are not another repository of data. They're pulling from wherever that data lives today. So that really assists with keeping data centralized and well organized. Also, because it's so reliant on APIs, we're really layering on top of existing solutions or platforms rather than replacing them. And so that's music to the CTO's ears. Anytime you try and rip and replace, you're talking a massive undertaking. And so, for the CTO, we're saying, hey, this is a faster way to build some of your, CX use cases. It's going to sit on top of your existing systems that you've already invested a lot of time and financial resources in. And it's just opening up new capabilities for your CRM or your scheduling system.
Yeah, so AI is such a hot topic right now. How do micro apps kind of micro apps fit into the whole AI driven customer experience strategy?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways. We think about a micro app as being kind of the underlying logic, steps, and rules and integrations that allow you to complete a process and automate the downstream work that needs to happen as a result of that process. And so, whether you are engaging with that in a chat like interface or a voice interface or more traditional user interface like a more traditional app, in our view those things are all the same. So when we talk about AI in terms of micro apps, I think it's a really powerful way to think about how to take your first steps with AI. And there's even a great paper from Forrester that talks about, I should have looked this up. It's like taking the crisis approach to AI, I think is something along those lines. Max Ball, one of our friends over there, was a contributor on the paper. And what they found was that a lot of the digital transformation efforts that began at the onset of COVID they were successful at a higher rate than digital transformation initiatives that happened at other times. And what they found was that the crisis of COVID forced businesses to look at very specific points of friction or very specific challenges that their customers were having and just focus on solving that one thing. And in doing that, whether you're doing, building a micro application with buttons and fields, or you're building a chat interface, this ability to focus on a single challenge and build a solution specialized to that is dramatically improving success rates. And I think that when we're, AI, this is one of the key challenges. There's a lot of ways that micro apps and AI kind of relate to one another, support one another. But to me, this notion of let's focus on one thing we're trying to enable our customers to do and do it right is going to be far easier for brands to make progress on deploying AI than trying to kind of create a single bot that can serve any possible need that any customer throws at them. So
yeah, it's always better to, instead of boiling the ocean, kind of an approach.
Exactly.
So I guess,
and so, yeah, so I was just going to say that, there's also this notion that if you do have a general purpose bot, they are getting really, obviously these agents, I'll stop calling them bots. Bot is kind of used as a derogatory term, but these agents are incredibly powerful. But they still have a lot of challenges in terms of taking actions and managing complex workflows. And it might not be that they can't manage the complex workflow, it just might not be the best way for the customer to complete that process.
So it's mostly a productivity lift as opposed to like a replacement feature.
Yeah, I mean, there's that as well. Like,
quantify this data. Here's like a spreadsheet, or maybe calculating like loan rates, for instance. There's a couple companies that do that as a business, actually. Upstart and Pagaya, they use AI for that, but I'm sure AI could be used in a lot of ways as kind of a part of the micro app too.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm talking about the primary use case in AI for customer service right now, which is it's a voice or chat bot agent that can understand, based on your natural language, what it is, what your intent is, and it can surface relevant information. I think, that's kind of like, it's not the state of the art today, but it's more like the, table stakes for these types of things, to be able to understand your question and provide relevant information. And then you get into, okay, I understand what your intention is. Your intention is to take out, apply for a mortgage loan.
Yep.
And at that point, a chatbot could ask you all the questions and understand your responses and complete a form. But for most, when you get to a complex process like that, it becomes easier to have the bot then push you into a more traditional environment where you're filling out your information, uploading your relevant proof of income, the property you're looking at, whatever is involved in applying for that mortgage. So we see this use of micro apps to extend the capabilities of these agents so that they can not only understand intent and provide all the relevant information, but now start going in and collecting information, creating a new record, creating a new loan application in this other system, sending it for approval, all the things that go in on the back end to getting that loan funded.
Yeah, it's really incredible to see how far it's come along over the last few years. AI was kind of a joke, 5-6 years ago, but now it's everything's AI. It's
and if you read the news, one day it's the most amazing thing, and the next day it's not living up to expectations. But I think anybody who's using Gemini or GPT or Claude on a regular basis is going, yeah, it's got some problems, but this is pretty amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I use ChatGPT all the time. So I guess what challenges do companies face when implementing micro apps? It sounds like every business should have one, but there's got to be a downside to it too, right? How do they overcome maybe some of these implementation challenges?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways that places where businesses get into trouble when they're implementing micro apps. I'd say the first one is micro apps is a new concept. And so what we find is that maybe some people are kind of understand the role that micro apps play within a broader strategy. And there's some that don't really see micro apps as serving a distinct role within the broader strategy. And so one thing is just increasing education and awareness on, where a micro app can come in and provide the same quality of solution with far less investment of time and resources. So that's one area. I think that micro apps as an approach in general is still building, still gaining awareness and understanding in the market.
Yeah.
And then we get into challenges that aren't unique to micro apps, but are critical in all of these types of developments, which is, the business and the IT kind of divide. The business understands the customer problem, IT understands the technology, and they need to come together to create a solution that, perfectly meets the needs of the customer and fits with the broader tech strategy. And so that collaboration between those two sides of the house is, obviously everyone gets along and everyone's is marching towards the same goal, but it's difficult to manage that collaboration. It's a point of failure in these types of projects. And so the more that IT can understand the actual customer challenge that they're trying to solve for, the actual KPIs that the business is looking to address, the better they can come up with solutions that
and for business people to communicate it better as well, knowing that, hey, you don't have to rip out and replace a bunch of features that you've already built, engineering team, which, like we talked about before, that's what they hate to do, is to undo work they've already done. Maybe that the business team asked them to do in the first place as well.
Exactly.
So they don't want to redo something they've already done for the business team. So communicating that, nothing needs to be redone, that this could play nice with the other systems. So really it comes down to, it sounds like, communicating with the prospective customer, the business team, to be able to communicate these pros with the engineering team. So it
Mhm.
doesn't seem like a big risk or a big time waste for them.
Yeah, I mean, what we're trying to enable for the business, if you look at customer experience leaders overall, almost all of them have the same challenge of knowing where customers are struggling, having a vision for how that
Yep.
interaction with the customer could be far better, but not having the resources or the time or they don't have a clear path to building a digital solution that will completely alleviate that friction. And so when we're talking to the business, they are excited about the smaller lift and the speed with which they can get these new solutions into market. And then for the engineering team, it's all the things you were talking about. Like, guys, we're not going to make a huge investment in development. We're not going to rip and replace any of your core systems. All of this is sitting right on top of your existing tech stack. These things are very easy to update. They're very easy to turn off if you come up with another solution. So it's it's a small footprint for IT, lower effort to launch new products, and then the business is just really excited by all the possibilities. These CX leaders seeing a path to really delivering digital innovation that can address all the problems that they've identified in their customer
Totally.
experience.
And the best part is they could start with just one feature, see if it makes a difference, and then it's easier to open up the door to bring in other micro apps for other specific problems that they want to solve. But you can really start with that one big pain point with a low lift effort with one micro app, demonstrate the value of that and their ROI to get the buy-in to be able to do more micro apps to continue to improve that experience. With that said, I guess what should businesses expect in terms of ROI for implementing these types of micro apps?
Yeah, so there's some direct ROI of using micro apps versus the traditional way of developing software. There's going to be reduced development costs. There's a faster time to market. Ideally, if it's done right, there's higher customer satisfaction, and all of those things help drive the ROI of a micro app strategy. When you kind of zoom out and you think about, that's both for new use cases that are being launched, as well as those who are looking to move to a more holistic micro app architecture, managing multiple micro apps rather than one monolithic app is going to also have reduced development costs, reduced maintenance costs, et cetera. But then, if we're looking at a business that's considering building a micro app for a given customer pain, there's a tremendous amount of ROI in just automating that scenario as well. So obviously, there's if you are building micro apps versus another approach, there's savings and benefits of taking a micro app approach. But what we find a lot is that there are certain use cases that just don't meet the threshold to be included in the native app. And so without a micro app strategy, it's probably not going to be automated.
Yeah.
Business as usual is kind of your biggest competition in any of these scenarios. And so that's where you unlock a tremendous amount of ROI as well. I mean, if you're not going to be automating this process another way, then you got to take that into consideration as well.
Yeah. So I guess what's next for micro apps? Where do you see the technology heading over the next few years?
Well, like anything, the next few years will be all about how AI is integrated into micro apps. And so, I talked a little bit about this notion of, in our view, micro apps are not, they can be, you can engage with them with natural language, or you can engage with them in a more traditional setting. And we are we don't have a preference one way or the other. It's really about what's best for the customer.
Yeah.
But I see an evolution of that happening where really every micro app can be utilized with a natural language interface or a more traditional interface. And it really doesn't matter. And you could even switch based on customer preference. So I think AI will make up a greater and greater percentage of kind of the front end of micro apps, that chat or voice interface. One area that I think is kind of the big unlock that many brands are looking to achieve is around advanced personalization.
Yeah.
So we talk about, I mean, personalization is not new, but it has been very rules-based, your name,
Yeah.
your company name, whatever those things are.
We've all gotten the cool emails before.
Yeah. So advanced personalization involves some level of reasoning. There's one of our partners actually developed this micro app, but I think it's a great example. This is CSG. So CSG works with a lot of telcos, and they billing issues drives a huge amount of service volumes for telcos, and so they created a micro app that explains your bill. So if your bill goes up, you get a notification, hey, your bill's gone up. Let's see why that happened. And AI reviews your past invoices, understands where the changes in the total came from, and provides a nice natural conversational explanation of, hey, your kid's phone was on TikTok for 20 hours last weekend, and that's why you went over your data limit.
That's really helpful.
Yeah, that is another level of personalization. Yeah. And I think it's a great example of how this type of how AI is going to impact customer experience moving forward.
Yep. And that's a great experience too, as opposed to them maybe picking up the phone and calling a customer service agent, tying up their time to ask them about their bill. It's,
it's like 40% of the calls that come in are about,
exactly.
Why did my bill go up $50?
Well, talk to your AI chatbot. He'll tell you actually.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, all of these, these micro apps can put someone in touch with an agent if they want to speak. Yep. What we find is that when we make it so simple for someone to get we proactively reach out with the answer to the question they didn't even really know they had yet. Like, hey, your bill's going up and here's why. Not only do they not call in, but they pay right then. They pay faster, they have higher satisfaction, and it avoids the issue altogether. And so
transparency helps with that tremendously.
What's that?
Oh, the transparency helps tremendously, just knowing exactly why their bill went up, so they're not, mad at you guys or the client, so to speak.
Transparency, that's a great way of putting it. We're talking about advanced personalization, but I think transparency is one of the main areas where we can improve using this advanced reasoning kind of personalization. Imagine you sign up for a new cable plan, and then there's a long list of terms and conditions that you have to scroll through and check the bottom box on.
Yeah.
Now, that's not transparent. It's supposed to be transparent, but the terms and conditions are far too complicated and long for us to digest. And so that's a great area where AI
contract summary. Yeah.
Like, you want to ask me a question about your terms and conditions? Can I cancel anytime? Go for it.
Totally. Yep.
So
and maybe even summarizing the top questions about the contract that people always have, which whenever I see a contract, there's always a certain clauses you always go to, like termination being one of them as an example.
Yep. So I think these are really exciting opportunities to improve customer experience with AI and micro apps. the last thing I was going to say is, and I think that this idea of a bill explainer gets to it, the best possible experience you can have as a customer is this proactive, action by the company saying, hey, here's a problem that we see. Your bill has gone up. We know that's going to, lead to some questions. We've gone ahead and answered them for you.
Yeah.
That is the best customer experience you can have. You don't need to identify the problem. You barely need to resolve the problem. And so I think that AI will also play an important role in identifying these moments where proactive service is needed and being able to provide the exact guidance that customer needs, whatever steps they need to take. And so, across engagement methods, advanced personalization, and this kind of advanced monitoring for proactive service, I think these are areas that are going to have huge impacts for customer experience.
Well, the future is really exciting, especially for customers. So
Yes.
I guess people learn more about Callvu, aside from being in the NachoNacho marketplace.
Which we're so excited about. Yeah, Callvu.com. Callvu.com. Feel free to reach out. And we will also be in San Diego at the GDS CX Innovation Summit next week if you happen to be there. But Callvu.com is your best resource. Sign up for a free trial and try the Callvu platform yourself.
Excellent. Yeah, a trip to San Diego doesn't sound too bad now that winter's hit most of the rest of the U.S. Well, Chris, it's been great having you on today. We're very excited about the Callvu partnership here at NachoNacho. We look forward to doing more with you guys. Once again, thanks for coming on today, and everybody check it out today, callvu.com. That's callvu.com, or you could find it in the NachoNacho marketplace. We have a sweet little deal there for you guys. Feel free to check that out as well. Again, Chris, thank you so much, and we look forward to 3 years working together.
Likewise. Thank you, everyone.
Cool. Yeah, that was